Hey, this is Nica Montford, aka Tech Savvy Diva,
Yo, this is Terrance Gaines, aka Brother Tech.
and welcome to the snobOS show, the show for Apple snobs where we talk all things Apple and then some. We want to definitely thank you for tuning back in and continuing to support our show. If you want to become a Patreon supporter and get some exclusive content and access to the live show, you can head on over to patreon.com/snobOScast. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into this week's show where we're going to kick it off with the Lowdown, where we talk all things Apple. So, iOS 16.4.1 was released and is out there in the world. Have you updated your device, Brother Tech?
Yes, I have tried to get my family to update their devices. Is a totally different story, but mine are updated.
As are mine. Again, I have that automatic update turned on. So typically, mine, as long as it's plugged into the power, it goes ahead and updates overnight.
Well,
But
which common misconception with that feature turned on doesn't guarantee that you're going to get the update, the iOS
first,
version, as soon as it's released. Apple does stagger the releases for that feature that I think is automatic updates feature
mhm,
to where, like you said, as long as the device is charged and as long as it's connected to the internet, you will get prompted to get that download. But don't just think, as soon as it's released, you're going to get it. So there are maybe times to where, you go into your settings, you check software update, and there's an update available, even though you have the automatic updates turned on. That just means when Apple decides to get it to you, then you'll get it without you doing anything. But if you check, you may be able to get a little bit faster if you manually update.
yep. So you got options, people. Either way, do your updates. So this update is for iOS 16.4 as well as iPad OS 16.4.1. And it includes some minor bugs. One of them was to fix an issue with Siri, where okay, she didn't. Where she, I sometimes forget where she would not respond in some instances. So that's supposed to be fixed. There are some important security updates for your Mac that are also supposed to be included in this latest update, including the pushing hand emoji does not show skin tone variations. That is true because when I saw what was supposed to what this release fixed and my device hadn't updated, I checked and there were several other emojis that didn't show the skin tone variations as it was supposed to. So that's fixed now. Again, like I said, the the automatic assistant, she wasn't responding in some cases as well. But we'll definitely put the link to this article and the link to the support website for Apple that gives some more detailed information as it relates to the security content of this update. Is there anything else you
Else,
wanted to mention about
ye-
this update?
yeah, HomePods get a update as well. So you'll have to go into the Home app, find your HomePod or HomePod Mini, and prompt the update for HomePod 16.4.1 as well.
Cool. So now that we do have this first update to 16.4, of course, the betas for the next version, which is 16.5, have started to roll out. We have, I think, the first beta is out, with the second beta with some new updates are expected to come out sometime this week, with the final version being expected to come around the end of April or the start of May. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for that. to make sure you get the latest and greatest for the updates. And again, most importantly, of course, you want your skin tones and your automatic assistant to be working. But the biggest thing is to make sure you get the updates for the security features because, as we know, hackers do not take time off. If they find a gap, they are going to definitely exploit it. So
Hmm.
as quick as these type of security breaches or issues are found, Apple will patch them. So definitely for anything else, out of anything else, make sure you do the updates for the security fixes as well.
Yep, yep, yep. Because in the next story, if you have a iPhone 7 or what are the different ones? If you got
Success.
6S, iPhone 7, some of those that are not supported by iOS 16, they released a update for that as well, which is 15.7.5, and that fixes two of those gaps that you mentioned that may have already been actively exploited. So if you do have an older iPhone, if you've got an older Mac that doesn't support Mac OS, what are we on? Ventura right now?
Ventura.
Yeah, if you've got a Mac that doesn't support Ventura, um, definitely want to do those updates because I don't know what's going on in 16.4.1 if there was some security vulnerabilities, but definitely in 15, iOS 15, if you got one of those devices that only supports 15, you definitely want to update. This goes for iPhone 6S, iPhone 7, the first generation iPhone SE, the iPad Air 2, the iPad Mini, fourth generation, and the seventh generation iPod Touch. You got any of those older devices, which I think I have a iPad Air, and I think I have a iPad Mini 2 in my home. iPad Mini 4, I'm sorry. I think I have those in my home still as well, so I'm definitely going to go find those and make sure those are up to date.
Yeah, for sure. Because a lot of time people, um, smartphones have changed a lot, but at the same time haven't changed a lot. And people aren't really, if you're not a super tech head, you're not really in a rush to go and get the latest and greatest, and you're still rocking your old device. Those devices still can have impacts whether it relates to security or functionality. So whenever you do get an update or whenever there is an update, especially to older devices, run, don't walk to get those updated because those are usually some of the biggest gaps that are out there because people expect people to not make sure their phones are up to date and in sync, especially if they're older phones. So definitely go ahead and get that. And there were some security updates in 16.4.1. It was in the article, but I will definitely put that in the link as well. Um, because it was tvOS 16.4. It got an
Mhm.
update and that had a security issue as well. And as you just mentioned, for the older Mac OSs, for people who aren't on Ventura, Big Sur, Monterey, all those things, make sure you go and get those updates as well because they are included. There are security updates to those as well. So we'll put the full list in the show notes, but just be advised if you have an iPhone or if you have an Apple device, do the updates because it's likely some security based features in that as well. So go ahead and get those done so that you won't be left behind and so that your device will not be vulnerable to any sort of malicious attack. So that's going to wrap it up for the updates. I did want to include this story. As you all know, Terrance and I both have Apple cards. And Apple is trying to entice people to get onto the Apple Card wave with this new feature where when you apply for an Apple Card, you can get a preview of what your limit will be. If you remember when the Apple Card first came out, it was a lot of discourse on social media about credit card limits, people who for some reason got higher ones than other people who had better, salaries or credit ratings or all those things. But now there are emails coming to your inbox about this incentive. Basically, I think the headline of the email reads, "There's Apple Card and then there's not Apple Card. Preview your new credit limit offer with no impact to your credit score." So basically, when you go through this process and you're applying for a Apple Card, you will be able to see what your limit is. You'll get a soft pull. And if you say, you know what, bet this is a nice credit limit. I need to buy some Apple stuff, get the cash back. Once you say, yes, I accept, then you'll get the hard pull on your credit. But this will kind of give you a little window to see where you fall on the credit band of what you will have access to on your Apple Card.
And this is smart, and it actually probably goes into, remember we talked about this story a couple weeks ago about how Apple was um doing other ways to find out whether or not if you're worthy, quote unquote, worthy to have an Apple Card, to where they were checking your Apple ID purchases. They were checking a whole list of other things related to Apple, to where they could kind of determine whether or not you're credit worthy or not. So I think that leads into this, how Apple can say, all right, looking at your Apple ID, looking at your past Apple purchases, looking at all these other things that don't have to look at your credit, we can determine, we can assume that you are your credit worthiness will give you an Apple Card. And this is the offer, and this is the credit limit and all that thing, right? Then if you, like you mentioned, if you accept it, then they got to run your regular credit. Um, so I think this may, you know, force other credit card companies to say, hey, let's figure out a way to determine credit worthiness without pulling somebody's credit, because everybody, now understands the importance of a credit score.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants anything that's going to blemish it in the little bit, which I don't know how. It's been a while since I've had to apply for anything major. Um, I don't know how bad of a ding it is to your credit report if just a credit card company like who's doing Apple's card? What group is that?
MasterCard.
The bank, Barclay, is that who it is? I think. Um,
Goldman Sachs.
Goldman Sachs. Yeah, yeah, yeah. If you get a on your credit history a line item for Goldman Sachs that they pulled your credit, I don't know how much of a ding that is. I don't know if it's a big deal. I don't know if it's a small deal. I don't know if it's somewhere in the middle. But I say that to say, um, people are concerned about that, right? They're
Yeah.
actually paying attention now. They understand the importance of a credit score, their credit limit, and all that stuff. So they are not applying for credit cards all willy-nilly like we used to back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
So, showing people showing people that, we think
Mm-hmm.
you'll get approved for this much
And
before we
people
even
can
mess with
gauge
you.
whether,
Mm,
whether the ding is
if it's
going to
worth
be
it.
worth it or
Yeah.
not. Because
Right.
I recently got a new Amex the beginning of the year.
Hmm.
Um, and it dinged me like it was like 9 or 10 points. So
Hmm.
it wasn't a huge ding. Um,
It depends,
so
right? If you're up here and they ding you 9 to 10, you're just here. If you're down here and they ding you 9 to 10, that's gonna drop you off the
right.
radar, right?
So you have to right. So you have to know what your credit score is, and if you're
Hmm.
already in very good standing, 9 to 10, or even 9 to 12 or 15 points really aren't going to do too much if you
Hmm.
already are in the very good band. Now, if you're
Hmm.
on the bubble, then that might kind of change things for you.
And it
Uh,
right, and it depends, right? Because you said you went for a higher type of credit card, right?
mhm.
If you're just applying for, a regular, I don't want to call it regular, But your more popular credit cards, just like a regular Visa or regular MasterCard or even Discover, surprisingly, they still out there, right? It may not even be 9 or 10 points. It all depends on what you're applying for, whether you're applying for a piece of furniture versus a car
Right.
versus a house
Right.
versus a credit card versus a
A
credit,
mortgage.
right. So I think it all depends, but
Yeah.
all that to say, folks are paying attention. So I think
Yeah.
it's smart for Apple to say, all right, here's a preview. Do you want it or not? Versus some of these other ones are kind of like, we don't know until we mess your credit up.
Pull that hard. Pull it hard, and you either get denied or you get, a credit card that gives you a $1,500
Right.
limit, and you're like, "What am I
Or
gonna do with
30% interest.
this?" Right?
Or they mess your credit up and they say, yeah, you're declined. I'm like, well, why are you
I
gonna
don't
mess my
think
credit
so.
up? You gonna mess my credit
Make
up?
it
Just tell
even
me.
worse, because if you're
Yeah.
declining me, then it may not already be that great anyway. So now you're
Hmm.
making it even worse. So
Right.
yeah. But again, the features with the Apple Card: no annual fees, no late fees, no foreign tracks transaction fees, no processing fees, no hidden fees. You know, then you get the cash back. Um, that's in your Apple Wallet.
Hmm.
We talked about it before, that there was a conversation that Apple may be coming up with a high yielding savings account through Goldman Sachs that you could put your Apple Cash in. I thought that was coming with the 16.4 release. It wasn't. I was like, wonk, wonk. So hopefully we'll see that come through later. But this just gives people a little bit more flexibility when they're deciding, and it gives them a little bit more control over their financial health and their financial future with this Apple Card, with this kind of preview feature to see what your credit limit will be um, on this. So yeah, so I think it's a good thing. And like you said, Terrance, I think it will open it up a little bit more for people for other companies to have to do something of the sort, because it is a good indicator for people, and it is a good way to kind of manage what you have going on in your financial health. That is going to wrap it up for the lowdown. We're gonna
I got one
handle.
more. I got
Oh,
one
you got one
more.
more. Let me go
Yeah.
back to the notes.
So, the popular Find My Phone feature, to where you can track your family if they approve, and friends if they approve you tracking their location. If you need to find AirPods, um, if you need to find uh, the AirTags, if you need to find your phone, right? You can go on iCloud or go on your phone, use the Find My feature, and find your device. And it's pretty accurate, with the exception of this one guy in this one house in Houston for since 2018, since he's owned the house for the past, what is that,
Well,
three,
you said,
4, 5 years?
uh-huh.
For the past 5 years or so, there have been hordes of people who have been turning up at this guy's house because, according to their devices, the Find My feature has found their lost item and has tracked it back to this guy's house. And he suspects the reason why he suspects this is an issue is because the subdivision in his area, he was the first one to buy, and he bought the model home.
Mhm,
And before it was an actual subdivision, that was the only home that had an address. Since then, they have built the subdivision around that,
uh-huh.
but either the subdivision or Apple never updated their maps or updated their information with all the other addresses in the subdivision. So if anybody's using Find My iPhone and their phone or their AirPods or whatever is in that vicinity, is going to default to his address.
Oh, I was trying to figure out, like, how does that happen? So say if they visited one of his neighbors and they left something there, it
Mhm.
won't point to the friend's house
Neighbor's
or
house.
neighbor's house that they went to. It'll go to this guy's house because that's
Right.
the only house that's on the map. Ooh.
Or somebody in the subdivision stealing stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's going, then people are tracking it. is tracking back to his house, which I don't know if I've said this before,
Mhm.
is a terrible idea. If you have lost something and you use the Find My feature to locate it, and you are successful in finding a approximate or precise location,
Mhm.
it is a terrible idea for you to go and confront
Just show
the
up at
persons or
somebody's
people,
yeah.
or confront or show up, whatever, looking for your devices. It is best that once you find a approximate or precise location, please get the authorities involved, because that is their job. You running up on somebody's porch in the middle of the night with your phone in your hand talking
And
about,
this is
hey,
Texas, right?
and this is Texas, which they don't play about their guns in Texas. You showing up
No.
on somebody's on porch at 1 o'clock in the morning. My phone said my AirPods are in your house and you need to come and talk to me. There was a story I was reading through the story, and there he quotes one person who says, the cops are on the way, so you may want to talk to me before they come here. That is a terrible idea, especially with somebody who feels like, hey, I don't have your stuff, why are you
Right.
here? That's nothing but an argument that can
Mhm.
escalate into something
Real quick.
worse. And there have
And
been
you're
stories,
trespassing,
and
so
you're trespassing, right? And you are, rightfully or erroneously upset because you think the person has your devices and you paid hard money or whatever the case may be. That is just an altercation waiting to happen. So I just thought it was crazy that, Find My is defaulting to this guy's house, and he Gizmodo reached out to Apple to confirm this person's account and for more
Mhm.
information. The company did not respond, but this guy, he hasn't escalated it yet. He's
Yeah.
reached out to Apple on multiple occasions to try to get the issue fixed. Up to now, according to him, or according to, since there was no response, they haven't fixed it, and he's considering filing a lawsuit, because I would too, because it's
Yep.
like, I don't want nobody showing up at my house. I don't
Right.
know what they got. I don't know what's going on with them. I got babies to protect in the house, so I'm
And
gonna
I don't
be
wanna shoot nobody,
right over
if
over
I
some
don't have to.
AirPods,
That's
right?
not even here, but if I have to, I will, but I don't want
Because
to.
people are belligerent. We've seen these videos,
Yeah.
social media viral videos, where people getting into it for far less.
Yeah.
So I can imagine somebody thinking I've got their property, a little belligerent, a little upset, and are not going to just be like, oh, okay, if I say, "Nah, I don't know what you're talking about, I don't own your stuff," there's
Mhm.
going to be pushback, because they, quote unquote, got proof on my phone, my AirPods are at this location. And all I can say is, you and your phone is wrong. Now you can either you can either get the authorities involved, or you can get off my porch, because
Right.
it's about to get busy out here.
Either way.
hmm So that's all. I just thought that was interesting. Just wanted to share that
Yeah,
story.
very much so. All
Call
right.
the police. Call the police.
Do not take matters into your own hand. You see what happened
hmm
with Sean Kemp when he rolled up on those people? He got arrested.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep, sure
Someone
did.
stole his phone and then they tried to like charge him with like a felony assault and all these things because he tracked his stolen phone to someone else's car and he rolled up on him and it was a little bit of a shootout and it was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Whoop, now
Mm-hmm.
you're going to jail."
Mm-hmm. Over a
So,
phone.
over a phone. And you're Sean Kemp, like, bro. I get it, it's your stuff, but
It-
come on.
Call the police. It ain't that
Yeah.
deep. It ain't that
No.
deep. Get the police
No.
involved.
Exactly. All right, now that officially wraps up the lowdown, let's head on over to second string where we are going to talk all other tech. First up, Twitter. If you use the Twitter Circle feature, which allows you to basically have a select group of people that you tweet to, similar to Instagram's close friends, if you don't want something to go full out on the timeline, but just to go to a select few people that you put in your circle, you think you're pretty safe to share something that may be a little bit more private or something that you may not necessarily, again, want the whole of the timeline to see. Well, it looks like Twitter Circle is not so much of a circle. It appears as if some tweets that you send in your circle that you think are private are not private. They are showing up on random user social network. I know I saw someone on Twitter actually do a test. They added one person to their circle and tweeted, like, if you see this, and like 200 people liked it.
Did the person retweet it or something?
No,
Mm,
they just posted, they created a circle with one person in
mhm,
it. And in
mhm,
that circle, they sent a tweet to
mhm,
that circle
mhm.
expecting, only one
The
like
one
because it's
person,
only
right.
one person there, either one like or no likes because it's only one person. And they got like 200 something likes. So
Mm.
apparently there is some sort of issue with Twitter Circle. That's the Twitter Circle's not working uh as it should.
So this is my second PSA. The first PSA was if your stuff is lost, get the police involved versus trying to be cavalier running up in somebody's house looking for your AirPods, right? That's my first PSA. Second PSA is please stop putting stuff on the internet that you don't want, that you would be upset or get in trouble for if it went public. Just don't say it. Just don't say it. I don't care if it's a DM. I don't care if it's a whatever the case may be. If you're not texting that person directly, and even then, they can screenshot it and keep it for future records. If you don't want something to make it to the light of day, or in this case, post it on the internet, just don't say it because Twitter circles ain't gonna save you. DMs ain't gonna save you. That stuff is going to find the light of day. And if that's going to mess up your reputation, if that's going to get you into some sort of financial or family trouble, just don't
Mhm.
say it. I don't understand our need to say stuff publicly thinking everybody ain't going to see it because I messaged this person, or because in this case, I've only selected a small group of people I want this to go to. Just don't trust it. Just don't trust it.
Not like the person that's in the circle can't screenshot it and then put it on the regular timeline.
Right.
Because I think that's what's happened on the Instagram close friends, stuff that they are purportedly sharing with their quote unquote close friends, ending up on the main feed because someone in that select group decides to post it on the main feed. So again, like Terrance said, save it for the group chat. And even then, make sure this is a person that you actually trust if it's something suspect that you got going on, because they can
And
take a
even
screenshot of that and put that on social media. So,
and y'all could be cool today, and in 2
right.
years from now, y'all turn into the worst of enemies, and guess what they gonna do? They gonna dig in, and they gonna
This
pull
you.
out that. So just don't even say it. Just don't even say it. I can't think of hardly anything, and I could be wrong, but there ain't too many things that I have said ever publicly that came out of my mouth or from these fingers that
Mhm.
if it turned up somewhere, my reputation would be ruined. But it amazes me the things that people will say in confidentiality, that make it to, front page of Twitter or whatever the case may be. And these people are, upset that I can't believe this private information got shared. You said it, it came out your mouth. Stand in it.
Right. Similar to, I don't know if you've seen it, but this coach from Warner Robins, Georgia, here in
Mhm,
the Georgia area,
mhm.
up here in Atlanta, saying some very racist stuff
He wanted that to
on
go public.
camera.
He
And
wanted it to go public.
he again, he is like
I
he
think he
helps people
coached
get to,
for I think he's a oh,
he's like
okay,
a private thing. So he
okay.
helps like high school kids get to the pros. I mean, get to college, and then college people get to the pros. He got pictures on his Instagram with black players. Jalen Hurts, I think he has a picture with him. He got pictures with like Dabo Sweeney. He got pictures with all of these other big SEC coaches, and just calling people the N word because he felt somebody was trying to cut him off, or saying, don't come to Atlanta because it's so black. When has Atlanta not been black? is my thing.
Look,
Bro, when was the last time you been?
I'm not taking anything he says seriously simply because he wanted to get caught. He wanted people to know how he felt.
How
So
racist he is.
so now we know, so now you do with that information what you will, but
Right.
this guy, I mean, multiple self videos. It ain't him, somebody else recording him talking to somebody else.
He's
This is
recording
him
it.
doing TikToks talking about how racist he is. So he wanted people to know. He was like, what you gonna do about it? We talked about it in the pre-show, who gonna check me? And he definitely had
Right.
that who gonna check me vibes. So it's just
Yeah.
almost like, well, it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And back to Twitter, I don't nobody can't be surprised with the security issues that Twitter is experiencing, or even the basic functionality of some of these features, because I mean, just look at the hellscape that Twitter is. Um so yeah, nobody should be surprised. Nobody should be sharing things that they wouldn't want the broader public to see, because let's be honest, the platform isn't very secure. It isn't very safe. They fired a bunch of people who handle those types of things. So nobody should be surprised that some of the functionality on Twitter is not working as they say it should, because the app is really, honest. I think honest last legs. I think NPR just made a post today that all of their 52 accounts are going to be inactive because Muskie tagged them as a state, government funded state media. I think that's what it called. And NPR is like, that ain't us. We don't have state funded media like that here in the United States. Not in the sense that he's meaning state funded. So yeah. So they were like, yeah, we out. We're gonna just abandon these accounts because
And it don't have to be true. He just had to say it.
right.
And he said it, and that just sparked all the little stuff, the controversy that he wanted to spark.
Yep.
Completely false, completely erroneous, but who cares about facts?
Yeah. Facts. What are those? So yeah. So next up, more along of the same lines of verified, we know that Twitter has their Twitter Blue, where you can basically buy your check mark. I think it was last said supposedly April 1st, the legacy check marks are supposed to go away, and people was like, I ain't paying for this. And so then they changed the heading of the verified accounts to say it's either a Twitter Blue subscription or a legacy. So it could really be either, and nobody would know unless it was a notably famous person that that is a legacy account. Meta, for Instagram and Facebook, has rolled out their blue checks. Well, blue checks seem to be coming over to LinkedIn, but with a little bit of different spin, which I think is valid for the LinkedIn platform. So Microsoft's verified ID confirmed that LinkedIn members will actually be able to verify where they work. So if I say I work at Apple on my
Mhm,
LinkedIn, knowing
mhm.
full well I don't work at Apple, before there wasn't really a way to confirm whether who you're saying you work for, because a
Well, there
lot of people use
is.
it. Yeah,
Well, there is, but you'd have to know the HR. You'd have to know how to verify somebody's employment. And typically, people who lie on LinkedIn really aren't looking for employment. They're just looking to position themselves as somebody important. And all they got to
right.
do is just say they've either worked at or currently employed by this company for somebody to be looking on LinkedIn, see their profile and be like, oh, okay, they've worked at X, Y, and Z. Let me reach out for them. And then they've done their thing, right? You can, if you if you was nosy like that, you can go find,
You could verify it, but it wouldn't be something official from the
Right.
company to say, yes, this person worked
Right.
here.
Right.
So it appears that this Microsoft is called Verified ID. It's a system within Microsoft. It's called Intra Verified ID, and so it'll issue these basically check marks to say this is a verified workplace of Terrance. We're verifying that he works here. So it starts on the employee side, so on the company side. I mean, on the employer side.
Hmm.
So it's one of those tools that the employer is going to have to set up, and
With
then
LinkedIn.
with LinkedIn. So
Hmm.
once you as an employee go in to add this, then it verifies, that you
Who I
actually
am.
work there. So
Right.
it's going to be one of those things where it's going to be a handshake between LinkedIn and the company. The company itself is going to have to initiate using this Microsoft Intra to ensure that you're able to determine who's credentialed and who's not.
Which is a
Now,
little bit, I was gonna say,
no,
which is a little
you
bit
go.
different. A little bit different than Twitter, a little bit
Right,
different than Facebook and
right.
Instagram, because you don't have to the employer doesn't have to pay, or doesn't have to have a paid LinkedIn subscription in order to use this feature. They can just go through the process to set it up, and then I, as a employee, I think I have to do something. I would
Mhm.
assume I have to do something in order to do this handshake with this different company. But again, with Twitter, it's blue, you got to pay.
Right,
With Facebook and Instagram's extra security features thing, you got to pay for that, right?
right.
LinkedIn is saying, all right, well, we're going to do this for free because we know there's a bunch of people on our platform
Out here
bold
lying.
bold-faced lying to people, just for the just to put themselves in a better position. And I think this is a good idea. I
Yeah,
don't have a
and
problem
it
with it.
makes it easier for the fact that Microsoft bought LinkedIn back in, the article says, 2016. So it's not something that's going to be uh, I guess, a huge burden between LinkedIn and Microsoft, because LinkedIn does come under Microsoft. So it'll be something that will be a little bit easier to put in place and to manage. But I do think this is, really a good idea. It's going to, pull the imposters out of the shadows, but it's going to really be up to employers to do that. Now, likely some of your smaller companies may not do this, or if there's a fee associated with it, they may kind of balance that out. But your larger companies like your Googles, your Apples, your Microsoft, these larger companies that, if you are a current employee or ex-employee of these places, it does have some weight to it if you're out there trying to get another job, trying to, speak
Or
at certain things.
I'll say, or we talked about this in the previous segment, where the dude, the Georgia coach, was running out here saying all this
Uh,
crazy racist stuff. And the internet does what the internet does, and they do their little sleuthing to find out who you work for, who you represent. And I'm pretty sure maybe there's been companies to where they say, hey, we are not associated with this dude at all. I don't Please don't be blowing up
he
our
never
message
worked
bot.
here.
So maybe this is maybe this is a indirect way for companies to disassociate with people when heat comes down, people
Right.
trying to find out what is these the employees that represent your company. Maybe these companies be like, yeah, no, if they ain't verified, we don't know this cat. So keep it moving.
And honestly, I think all these platforms should be verified. The blue check, when Elon took over, it was blue check meant prestige, or people thought they were better than everyone else. The blue check, I think it kind of evolved into some of that self-importance. But the way the whole blue check thing started was people actually verifying their identity. So say Halle Berry, she's like, yeah, I want to say that this is actually me, because we've seen people,
Impersonate.
manipulate, impersonate, manipulate, handles. So instead of doing, like, say for instance, Halle Berry, HALLE. Some people do HAIE. Looks the same. And it's one of those things where, once they impersonate people, they ask for money or those types of things, or give them opportunities. Well, if you meet me here, I can get you an acting gig or get you, on a music set, those types of things. So the idea is to verify everybody's identity, to make sure you are who you say you are, not so much to me for, saying I'm of importance or I have status, but everybody should be verified on these accounts to say that you are who you say you are. Now, if you want to give them a little extra razzle dazzle for somebody who is, say, an actor or the president or politician or journalist, those types of things, sure. But everybody on all of these platforms should be verified.
Well, you should have to identify who you are via some sort of driver's license, via some sort of passport, via some sort of ID, that to where you are who you say you are in order to use the platform itself. Now, if I decide to then use a pseudonym like Brother Tech, for example,
Mm-hmm.
I can tweet all day long under the pseudonym of Brother
Mm-hmm.
Tech. But when push come to shove, the platform should know who Brother Tech
Who
is.
Brother Tech is. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Who
Yeah.
who the person who's creating the account, whether you have your handle be something not your name, they should know who the real person is behind this. And I
Hmm.
think that would mitigate a lot of these bots that we have, and people create these bot farms, whether it be to, harass someone, or whether it be to, I don't know, try and
Spread
influence
information. Yeah. Yeah.
misinformation. Yeah, those
Right.
types of things. So I think that would do a lot to quell some of that stuff as well. But
Yep.
all that to say, it looks like LinkedIn is coming for the imposters. So um, if you out here living dirty, you may want to go ahead and clean that up, because they're coming for you real quick. Next up, everybody just be out here all willy-nilly, using plugs and cables and connecting to unsecure Wi-Fi. Well, the FBI is issuing a warning to the public about using USB charging stations. Apparently, using random charging stations, whether it be at the airport, whether it's at a convention center, whether it's at a ball game, um, you may want to rethink that, because the Denver field office of the FBI has issued a public statement that hackers have found a way to use public USB ports to put malware and monitoring software onto your phone or your tablet if you're plugging into one of these free USB ports.
Hmm.
So, again, there are so many other ways that you can charge your phone, whether it be with one of the battery packs on the back, or one of the pop filters, external battery, all those things, making sure you
Or
have the fully charged device before you go somewhere.
I was gonna say, or just use the electrical outlet to
Yes.
charge your device. Take your cable and take the little what do they call them? There's a funny name that people call them. The brick. The
Oh, the
brick.
power brick.
Yeah, the power brick, and plug that into the wall, and then plug your phone into that versus using the USB part and plugging the USB into a USB charger at an airport, at a convention center, at a mall, places like that, to where people can manipulate these charging stations and do things like pull your passwords off your phone
Mhm.
or remotely lock your phone, and then you've got to call somebody and maybe give up some money,
Ransomware.
right, in order to get your phone back. So it's just as simple as carrying a brick that plugs into an outlet, or like Nica mentioned, portable battery charger. Anything else, anything is better than plugging your phone into the USB port of anything. nowadays.
Right. Yeah. So, especially as we're starting to get into the warmer months, people, like we mentioned in the pre-show, spring break. People are out traveling. People seem to think that COVID is over, so people are really back outside. So as you start to travel, as you start to go places, just be mindful that again, scammers, hackers, bad actors, they do not take a day off. And if they can find a way to manipulate any of our technology, they will, to get your information or to get your money or resources. They will do it. So just be aware and make sure that you prepare yourself. All right. So that is going to wrap it up for second string. We are going to head on over to For the Culture, where we talk about things that are socially relevant, things that are going on in society or on social media, or honestly, just anything that we want to talk about as it relates to our culture. So I'd put something in here before and I was like, I don't know if we want to cover that. And then as we were going through the show, I was like, ooh, I remember this thing. And I went to go and put it in our show notes because that's what we kind of used to as an outline for our show. And Brother Tech had already put it there.
Hmm.
If you were a technically a college student in the mid
Early
to late
90s.
90s.
But
Well,
I would say,
it started in the early 90s. By the time
right,
it got to the end of the 90s, it
right,
had kind of fizzled.
right.
But if you were a youth out here living your best life in these college streets, you may have a little cause to be worried because Jermaine Dupri and Uncle Luke of Two Life Crew have come up with this documentary that will be airing on Hulu that follows the rise of Freaknik, which was basically Black Spring Break right here in the city of Atlanta.
Hmm.
And if you know anything about Freaknik, the name itself kind of gives you an idea of
Hmm.
what was going on, but it was well timed to be out in the streets. And a lot of time, those of us who are in or around that age range, it's like, ooh, thank God we didn't have social media when I was young. Well, this might be coming back to bite you on the butt. You might not have
Hmm.
had social media, but people had the big over the shoulder camcorders that
Hmm.
they took everywhere.
Hmm.
Not just the little ones that had become compact, but the big old school heavy ones that sat right there on your shoulder. So this documentary is going to cover Freaknik at its peak, which was around 1994, and showing all these Gen Xers in their free and prosperous spring break summertime glory. So, yeah. So it's got people on social media giving what's the word I'm looking for? Precursors, preemptive uh Twitter, Facebook, Instagram posts about what uh you could possibly see if you happen to tune in
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
see somebody's mama, somebody's daddy, somebody's pastor, somebody's CEO, somebody's politician out here on top of a car in the middle of downtown Atlanta on I-85, standing on a top of a car twerking. Then yeah, the Xers are they have a little bit of a fright going on.
Um, this is cute. And what I mean by that is the quote unquote worry of now, you know, upstanding citizens concerned about the image that may be portrayed if some never seen footage of Freaknik, made it to the light of day, let alone made it on a documentary. I think it's cute. I think they are grabbing hold of this trending topic, which is this Freaknik documentary, and they are, using it to um, they're using it to their ability to get this attention, and what the attention is, oh man, I'm glad, like you mentioned, I'm glad social media wasn't around. I'm glad smartphones weren't around because I was out here.
in these
No,
streets.
no, you probably wasn't. Now, I went to Freaknik towards the end. I think it was 97 when we went down there to Atlanta. And the Freaknik that I remember was, yeah, there was a lot of people hanging out in the streets. Really wasn't a coordinated place where you were to go. You just were there in the city of Atlanta. There were some popular streets, Memorial Street, Peachtree Street. There was some popular streets that people would congregate. But
Buckhead
the freak,
Strip.
yeah, right, right. But the Freaknik I remember, the police were they were making sure traffic went and came. You couldn't really park in the city of Atlanta. And as far as the quote unquote hypersexuality, it really had gotten bad to where there were a lot of rape allegations and a lot
Sexual
of
assault.
sexual assault because, the Freaknik of the early 90s, 92, 93, 94, it was really just people having a good time, and it was spring break. So people were scantily clad, people were
It's the
dancing in the
South. It's hot.
streets.
Yeah.
Right, right, right. Which isn't any different than any spring break footage I've ever seen. Kids get
Panama
together,
City, whether it be
kid
Myrtle Beach.
right.
Yeah.
Kids get together, they either lose their inhibitions because they are away at college, or they lose their inhibitions because they drinking alcohol,
Hmm.
and people do stuff, right?
Right.
Um, I think uh um while there were, people being extra, that's what people do. They be
Yeah.
extra, right? But I don't think, fast forward to today, and some mother or some father or some pastor or some president of a school is going to be ousted, quote unquote, as it results, in this never before seen footage of Freaknik making it to a documentary. I think people are using this as let's jump on this trending topic. While there were some stuff there, and I remember seeing some stuff personally with my own eyeballs,
Yeah.
right? I would not, and it could just be because when I went, it was kind of towards the end, and it
Hmm.
really wasn't as you know,
It
uh,
wasn't peak Freaknik.
it wasn't peak Freaknik, right? But I think people are using this as an opportunity to jump on the bandwagon of, oh, we was crazy when we was kids, when you was in the car with the windows locked while everybody else ran around through the city. So that's all I saw. I just thought that was interesting, but I am interested to see how it came about, and the peak of
Yeah.
Freaknik. I've got
Yeah.
friends who were there. When we went, we were invited by people who lived in Atlanta. Come
Hmm.
stay with us. Come, experience Freaknik, right?
Right.
But people, natives, locals from Atlanta probably have a totally different
Right.
experience than somebody visiting. So I'm definitely interested to see that part of it.
Right. So I'm similar to you. I went 97, 98, and again, that was, while it was still fun, it was a different Freaknik than what it was at its peak. And I had just moved to Atlanta to go to school.
Mhm.
So it was around those things where it had, by the time I think 98 had rolled around, I don't think they did one 99. It was more of people were annoyed with it by then.
Mhm.
because as with anything, when it's in its inception, when it's at its peak, the people that are coming to participate are the core demographic of the people
Mhm.
who were expected to come. It was light, it was fun, even though, like you said, lots of sexual assaults, lots of violence. Um, Again, because people inhibitions were down. But I think by the time people saw what was going on, because it was on the news, traffic was at a crawl. People would, I mean, it was a literal parking lot on I
Businesses will be affected.
85.
Mhm.
Businesses are being affected, schools were affected, people were trying to go to the grocery store, trying to go to the doctor. They couldn't go anywhere because the streets were just clogged with people. But also, the demographic was college students. But a lot of it, people are talking about, oh, your mama's about to be exposed or those types of things. To me, it's more on these men are going to be exposed for their
That's true.
misogyny, for their sexual assault. And there are so many older men that came down for Freaknik after they saw at its peak what was going on, and
Mhm.
they wanted to get involved. So it evolved into
Creep
just
fest.
creeps coming
Mhm.
down, trying to take advantage of these younger girls. And
Mhm.
it was people, again, it was like summer, springtime.
Mhm.
So there are kids there. And when I say kids, I mean your high school age
Mhm.
kids, students that were coming to participate. People weren't really caring, honestly, what age or who was down there. If you were down there, it was like, well, you down here, you want to be involved, you want to be in it,
Right.
and
Right.
not really recognizing the level of the ick factor that
Right.
it ultimately evolved into
Mhm.
because of what they thought they could get away with. Now,
Right.
again, this is at the end of the 90s, early 2000s. So I don't know what it looked like at its peak. So
Mhm.
I'm interested to see what it, as an adult, what
Right.
it was. Because I mean, you see this as a kid and you're like, man, this is fun, this is cool, I want to go, that kind of stuff. Because you see people dancing in the street, it seems like a good time.
Mhm.
And then when you actually get to see it for yourself, it's like, oh, this is kind of fun, but then it's kind of weird too, because
It it
some of
grew.
y'all not supposed to be here for this.
Yeah. And I
And so
think
it
the
kind of evolved.
Yeah, and I think because it wasn't orchestrated, because it wasn't centered around anything,
Hmm.
that's I think was his ultimate downfall because it just grew into a thing that just enveloped the city as a whole versus
Hmm.
it just being like a Coachella, right? I
Yeah.
would think the same things that happen at Coachella now were the same things that was happening at Freaknik, but the only difference was there was no organization
Right.
around Freaknik. At Coachella, it's like you go
It's
to
a
this place,
concert.
you go to this place, you are there for this thing. In the middle of that, a lot of stuff is happening, but then you're there at Coachella, you're there at this festival, you're there at this event versus Freaknik was kind of like, you
and
know.
and and let's not forget, before Freaknik, we had Woodstock, where they were out there living their best life as
Right.
well.
So I don't
Even
want people.
after, yeah, even after Freaknik
Mhm.
had, I don't know if some of you don't remember MTV Spring Break Cancun.
Right.
That stuff was pretty wild. Um, uh, Going down to Myrtle Beach, going
Right.
down to Panama City
Going down to
for
Daytona Beach, where we
Daytona
went
Beach.
after
Yeah,
Freaknik. We went to Daytona Beach in Florida.
right, right. So while this is Freaknik was a cultural phenomenon, and I don't think anything like that has happened before, particularly because it was in a black city and it centered mostly black uh, teenagers, 20s, you know, I think it was a phenomenon in that. And then for what Atlanta has become now as the mecca of, entertainment and, one of the cool cities to be in, I think it's going to be interesting to see how the trajectory of Freaknik in the early 90s up to, kind of what Atlanta has become. So it's going to be interesting to see how they frame this documentary,
Right.
what they're going to cover, if they're going to talk about, any of the prequels to Freaknik, any of the, I don't know, postquels. I don't even think that's a word, but after Freaknik, if they're going to weave that in, or if they're just going to, specifically focus on that particular time. So I'm definitely interested to see it. I don't have to worry because I won't be any of this.
Yeah,
So
and most
I'm
and most
good.
and most people want,
Right,
people,
right.
on here, expressing worries and concern. I'm like,
Yeah,
sit your tail on down. You wasn't out here like for real out here, like
right.
some of these folks were. And even if you were, it was just a moment in
A
time, right?
moment in time.
You shouldn't be ashamed unless you was, caught on camera
Right.
punching somebody in the face or,
Right.
uh being a creep. Right now,
Right.
if you get on camera actually being a creep, then yeah, you got cause for concern. But you just
Yeah.
out enjoying, you're having a good time,
And
relax.
honestly, are people really going to be able to make you out? Maybe in some instances, but for the most part, no.
You have changed.
If people, if you are found out that it is you, is more than likely going to be you pointing out you than
Right,
someone else pointing out you.
right,
So yeah,
right.
so I think it's going to be fun to see a little
Hmm.
bit of nostalgia coming back.
Hmm.
So yeah, so it'll be cool. So I'm looking at this article that is in here from OK Player, and it says, quote, this freak, it's called Freaknik, the wildest party never told,
Hmm.
recounts the rise and fall of a small Atlanta HBCU picnic that exploded into an influential street party and spotlighted ATL as a major cultural stage.
Hmm.
So yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. I don't know, I don't think there's a release date. I know someone said that it was already out, and I was like, I don't think it's already out, because if it was, we'd be seeing screenshots or clips on social
No,
media, but I don't know. I don't think a release date has
no.
been attributed to this yet.
No, and it won't be out probably until another year or so. I
Oh,
just think,
okay.
again, I just think a tweet, by Hulu, or a tweet, Hulu corroborated about this documentary.
Hmm.
People just took it and ran with it,
Yeah.
because that's what we do. We're trendy stuff. Yeah.
And honestly, now that it is really trending, they'll probably go back and add some more stuff, or make it maybe even a little bit more salacious, because people are worried about the salaciousness. So it's kind of, put the battery in the back of this documentary that it may end up being something that it originally didn't intend to be, because of all of the hoopla
Uh-huh.
around it now. So
Right.
I think it's going to be a fun time. Either
Mhm.
way, a fun and informative time. Hopefully they will tackle some of the tougher issues surrounding this, and not just the party aspect of it.
Mhm.
But we'll see in all due time. So once it's released, we'll definitely be talking about that when it's back up. All right. So that is going to wrap up for the culture. Let's head on over to the hookup for our tech tip of the week.
All right. So, like I mentioned, I have been traveling these past couple of weeks, and I think I've had this as a hookup before, but I just wanted to put it out there again because it came in handy. It is the TP Link travel router, and it's a router maybe about the size, I don't know, of a little bit, maybe the size of your smartphone if you stack three of them on top of each other. And basically, what it is exactly what it says it is. It is a travel router, but the cool part about it, and I'll give you my example. Um, my phone, my iPad, my wife's phone, my wife's iPad, my kids' phones and tablets, and all their things automatically connect to our home network as soon as they hit the house, right? When you go to a hotel, when you go to a resort, you got to jump through all these hoopla. If not, have to pay for Wi-Fi. You got to jump through all the hoops in order to sign on to the hotel's Wi-Fi, and their Wi-Fi may not be strong, or like I mentioned, you may have to pay for their Wi-Fi, or your Wi-Fi, the hotel's Wi-Fi ain't all that secure. We just talked about in a previous story about how connecting your phone or charging your phone to a USB port is even more sketchy to connect to a to connect to an unsecured public Wi-Fi network like a hotel, right? So with this comes in handy for me is I use this set it up to emulate my home network. So then we went to the hotel. I plugged this travel router into the room's Ethernet. Once the travel router detected that it had internet connectivity, it broadcast my home network. So my kids' devices, they didn't have to do anything. It saw our home network and automatic connected. So that stopped me personally from having to go around to every single device and connect it to the room or the hotel's Wi-Fi. In addition to that, since the home network is broadcasted with a secure password, only the devices that knew or saw that network could actually connect to it. So therefore, I didn't have to worry about my kids, anything being tampered with my kids' devices. In addition to it being a faster way to connect, so you can do it too. Go ahead.
No, I
You
was
want to
just
say
gonna
something?
say, so before you left home, you configured this
Yep.
based
Yep.
off of your home network?
Yep.
Okay.
The SSID and the password and things of that nature. So once I set it up before I left, all I had to do was go to the hotel and then plug up the Ethernet. So you can either do it that way, or what you can do is you can set this up to connect to the, in this case, we'll say the hotel's Wi-Fi, and you can use that to broadcast a Wi-Fi network that your family can log into that's more secure, right?
Mhm.
So the way I did it was is faster because I plugged it into the Ethernet at the room. So
Yeah.
now I've got that fast Ethernet. From there, all it does is broadcast my home Wi-Fi that my kids and my wife's devices connected to, and that
Already
make
know.
and right. And also I use a Roku stick. So I instead of signing into the hotel TVs, all those different accounts, like for instance, Apple TV and Netflix and YouTube TV. I sign in to all those devices onto the Roku stick, and then when I go to the hotel, I plug that into the hotel's TV, and then boom, automatically everything lights up. But in addition to that, the Roku stick is looking for my home network. So when I take these two things, I plug up this router and then I plug up the Roku stick, everything lights up. And it just saves me a bunch of time from having to set everything up. And then, like with the Roku stick, I don't have to sign out of all of those accounts on the hotel TV. I can just
Mhm.
unplug the Roku stick and I don't have to worry about somebody coming in behind us and watching, our, TV, for
On
lack
your
of a better
account.
term,
Yeah.
right, on my account. So
Yeah.
definitely, if you are traveling, if you travel a lot, if you're going to be traveling during spring break or summer vacation or whatever the case may be, I would definitely invest in a travel router. This one that I use is a TP Link AC750, and it's only 35-40 bucks. So you do that, you set it up. Once you plug it into the network at your hotel or wherever you're going, everybody's devices automatically connect without you having to go through the extra hoops of signing everybody in and signing everybody out.
Yeah, and we'll definitely put this in the show notes. If you are watching the live stream, you are able to see what the device that Terrence talking about is actually pretty small, so that's cool.
Yep.
All right, that is going to wrap up the show this week. Thank you for tuning in as always. Brother Tech, tell the people where they can find you.
Sure. You can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH.
Cool. And you can find me at Tech Savvy Diva on all of the social media platforms as well. Again, to connect, comment, and share and support our show, head on over to snobOScast.com to get all of the details. Again, thank you for tuning in this week. We will catch you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Peace.
Bye, everybody.